This is the Canon 50mm lens, EF 1x1.8, and it's pretty amazing. Cheap as chips. And if you've got to get one lens, this is the lens to get because it's incredible. It does amazing stuff.
This is known as fast glass or a fast lens because it can achieve the same exposure with faster shutter speeds.
This lens is very light. I think it weighs about 6 ounces and it adds virtually no weight to the camera, so you can walk around with this all day long and be very comfortable rather than one of those big long lenses. And it's great for shooting out in the street because it forces you, because of this fixed focal length, it forces you to get closer to your subject. So if you're photographing someone, you size them up, you line them up how you want it, and then you might realise it helps with composition because you're starting to now frame the thing in the shot, which saves you a lot of time in post-production. So it's a good little lens to teach you photographic skills because you'll see inside there exactly what you're getting. And you'll frame up the shot to get it exactly how you want. Brilliant, I love it. I think it's a great little lens. I don't use it for video, although I have used it for video, but I prefer a 10-20mm lens for video because this is too far away and you look like you're right in. If you film someone at this distance, their face will fill the entire screen, which is what you want sometimes in movies and documentaries. You want that tight shot on the face. So for that you could use it, but for vlogging and things like that, no. Unless you've got a very big room where you can sit about 8 or 9 feet away, 3 meters away, and then you'd get your torso and your head in and it would be fine. But for close-up work or for vlogging, no. Unless you like that kind of thing, unless you want your face right in the middle of the camera, no. When you start doing photography with a real camera, you start to realise that the kit lens that comes with your camera may not be the greatest thing going. And then you think, oh, I've got to get another lens, and they are very expensive. Lenses are very expensive. This one is cheap as chips, like 60 to 80 pounds, which is about $90 to $100. And you can pick up this prime lens, it's a prime lens, and you can do a whole bunch of different things with it. You can do landscapes, you can do street photography, very good for street photography, very good for portraits, and it's a cheap lens. I think it's probably the cheapest lens Canon do. But you've got autofocus on there, you've got a focal length of 50mm, but when you put it onto something like this Canon 70D, you see inside there that sensor? That's what you call an APC crop sensor. And so when you put this 50mm lens onto it, you have to multiply it by 1.6, which now means this is no longer a 50mm lens, it's an 80mm lens. When you're shooting something with this, you can get focus within about 1 foot of wherever it is you're filming or photographing. So you can get very close to things. And another trick that people often talk about, take it out, turn it around, and you can actually get macro. You can get, like, you know, you can get and do some macro stuff. Not very effective at that, but it does work. I've tried it a couple of times, not impressed with that, but I am impressed with this lens. My son gave me this lens and he's a photographer, and he said to me, "Hey Dad, have that, go and have fun." And when you first start using this, I used this on my introduction to my channel. My son shot it and he was literally this far away from me and my face is like filling the frame. But you know, it's good for that kind of stuff, for portraits, that kind of thing. Okay, what this lens is very good for is bokeh. You know when you get that situation where you want to photograph a person. Say you want to photograph a person and you want that nice blurred background behind them. You can get it with this very easily. And I'm shooting this in fully automatic mode, right? Put everything onto auto. A lot of people frown on the fact that you may be suggesting that they should use auto focus and auto everything on the camera. You know, on the Canon, you've got that there, it says the green thing. You switch that to auto, put the autofocus on. I don't know why, but they seem to think that auto mode is a bad thing. Well, let me explain what I think. If you're coming to these type of cameras and you've been used to using your smartphone, for example, and you're coming to these kind of cameras, you've got all these buttons and dials, and it's a bit intimidating, right? But the automatic modes on these cameras are amazing, absolutely amazing. Obviously you haven't got the same full control as you have in manual mode. You have got years and years of experience of photographers and developers who have worked on this system. So the automatic modes are really, really good. You know, if you want to just take a photograph, you don't have to know about white balance, you don't have to know about anything. Now I've got a bright ring light, and I'm filming on the Fujifilm X Pro 2. Even though there's a very bright light source here, this camera figured out that the camera that I was photographing was in shadow. Even though it's very brightly lit, this camera figured out that the camera wouldn't show up, so it hit the flash. So on fully automatic mode, this camera is idiot proof. If you're going to use this for video, you need a lapel mic or something like that, because listen to this motor. It's quieter in video mode. Put it into video mode. Hear the difference? Still pretty loud. So if you were going to do video with this, you need lapel mics or a separate audio source, because yeah, that would just be terrible audio. If you're adjusting from auto and you want to change the focus yourself, turn it off of auto and then adjust the focus yourself if you want to get into something. Yeah, because you'll smash up the gears. As you develop as a photographer, this lens will grow with you, right? As you get more competent and you start to go onto the different manual modes and aperture priority modes or shutter modes, as you get better, this lens will grow with you, and then you'll really start to see it perform. But even in fully automatic mode, the lens performs brilliantly. But as you get better at photography, you start to learn what the different things can do, then you'll see the value of this thing. Talking about portraits, how do you hold the camera? I mean, everyone's used to using smartphones, but this has got a grip, so you grip it like that, place it in your hand. That's it. That's a portrait. That's landscape. That's portrait. Simple as that. Just a different dimension. And the more you play around with this thing, and we've got plenty of time to play around now with a lockdown going on, you should really be doing something creative with your time and do something to, you know, it doesn't have to be photography, it doesn't have to be playing guitars or whatever. But, you know, just do something creative with your time instead of sitting there listening to the freaking news all day, driving yourself nuts. Do something creative. That's what I'm doing. Hey, I did a short video on this lens just to test out the shorts system, you know, the YouTube shorts thing that's going on. Everyone's raving about. So I did a little introduction to this lens. And in the introduction, I basically summed up what this thing can do, right? It's cheap, very affordable, very versatile, and if you're only going to get one lens this year, get a 50mm. Whether it's Canon or Fujifilm or Nokia, whatever, get a 50mm lens, because it's super versatile, and as you get better at photography, this will grow with you. It will grow with you, and you'll realise what a brilliant investment it was. It's not great for video, no. That's wrong. It is great for video, but you've got to be a long way away because this thing zooms right in. There's no zoom on this thing, it's a prime lens. This little Canon 50mm lens, commonly known as the Nifty 50, it's been around for a long time. And you know, new cameras coming out all the time, new lenses are coming out all the time. But sometimes you've got to go back to basics, you know, and this is as basic as you can get. It's a really good lens, and it actually helps you to learn how to do photographs because it helps with the composition. It helps you to, it forces you to think about the composition before you shoot it. We're so used to smartphones and like having everything done for us. This thing is more, you're a bit more involved with it, even on fully automatic mode. And as you grow as a photographer, you'll learn to use this in all its different facets, and it's amazing. You'll find it's amazing. And they are cheap as chips, really are cheap as chips. So when you look at the price of things, it's not always, value is not always associated with price. You know, this is an extremely valuable lens that costs next to nothing. It's a valuable lens in the sense that it teaches you how to be a photographer. Some of the greatest photographers who ever lived use 50mm lenses, and it's a basic but incredibly good. I mean, the build quality of it is, it's all cheap plastic and all that, but it does a brilliant job. The newer version has got a metal bezel on the back here. This is all plastic construction, right? There's no metal on it. And hopefully they'll turn this, when they do eventually go to the great lens graveyard in the sky, they'll recycle that and make it into plastic cups or something. But, you know, it's all plastic. It looks cheap. It is cheap, but it does a fantastic job. Perfect. That's the Canon EF 50mm 1x1.8 version 2 of the 50mm lens. I think it's a no-brainer. It's brilliant. I mean, I'm sure if you looked around thrift stores and junk shops, you'd pick this up for 10, 20 bucks, 10, 20 pound, because they are all over the place. They're everywhere, and everybody raves about them. But they're great little lenses. That's all I've got for you today. I'll see you next time. Bye now.